Dr. Hannah Kim sat alone in her laboratory at Seoul National University. The clock on the wall showed 11:30 p.m. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. Only the quiet humming of her equipment kept her company as she stared at the empty message screen on her computer. For 3 weeks she had been thinking about the same thing. The soldiers. The brave men and women who were stationed far away from Earth, protecting everyone from dangers in space that most people could not even imagine. These soldiers lived in small ships and space stations at the very edge of human territory. They watched for alien threats. They kept Earth safe. Hannah felt grateful to them. She wanted to tell them so. But she had never written to a soldier before. She did not know what to say. How do you thank someone for risking their life for strangers they will never meet? She took off her glasses and cleaned them slowly. The laboratory was filled with specimens from all over the galaxy. Strange plants, unusual bacteria, and alien microorganisms that she studied every day. Her job was to understand how life worked on other worlds. It was fascinating work, but it was also safe work. She never faced any real danger. Unlike the soldiers. Finally, she put her glasses back on and started typing. "Dear soldiers of the U.S. Frontier Defense Force," she began. Her fingers moved slowly at first, then faster as the words came easier. "You don't know me, but I wanted to thank you for your service. My name is Dr. Hannah Kim and I study alien biology here on Earth. While I work in the safety of my laboratory, you stand guard at the edge of known space, protecting all of us from dangers we can't even imagine." She paused, thinking about how lonely it must be out there. Months or even years away from home. No family nearby. No friends except for the other soldiers on their ship. Just the endless darkness of space and the constant worry about what might be hiding in it. "I know it must be lonely out there so far from home," she continued typing. "I hope this message finds you in good health and spirits. With deepest gratitude, Dr. Hannah Kim." She read the message 3 times before sending it. It felt too short, too simple. But maybe simple was better. She sent the message through official military channels and then turned off her computer. She did not expect anyone to write back. Soldiers were probably too busy to respond to random thank you notes from scientists. For 3 days she went about her normal routine. She examined alien plant samples in the morning. She wrote research reports in the afternoon. She taught her graduate students about xenobiology. But part of her kept wondering if any soldier had read her message. On Thursday evening, as she was preparing to leave the laboratory, her secure communication terminal made a soft chiming sound. She had received an encrypted message. Her heart began beating faster as she opened it. "Dr. Kim," the message began. "Thank you for your letter. It means more than you know. I'm Captain Jaiwoo Park of the UES Sentinel. We've been stationed at Sector 7 for 8 months now, and you're right, it gets lonely. But we found something out here that I think you'd find interesting. Something that doesn't match any known classification." Hannah felt excited. A real soldier had written back to her. Not only that, but he had found something scientifically interesting. She continued reading. "I probably shouldn't be sharing this, but attached are some scans of biological samples we've recovered from derelict ships. The molecular structure is unlike anything in our databases. I was hoping someone with your expertise might take a look. Stay safe, Captain Jaiwoo Park." Derelict ships. That meant abandoned alien spacecraft. The military sometimes found these floating in space, empty and mysterious. Whatever had happened to their crews was usually a mystery. But this Captain Park had found biological samples inside these ships. That was unusual. Hannah quickly downloaded the attached files. There were dozens of genetic scans, molecular analyses, and protein structures. Her excitement grew as she began studying the data. This was completely new science. Alien biology that no human had ever seen before. But as she worked deeper into the night, her excitement began turning into worry, then into fear. The genetic sequences were definitely alien. They were unlike any Earth-based life form she had ever studied. But there was something familiar about them too. The way the proteins folded reminded her of Earth viruses. Specifically, viruses that attacked human cells. She ran more detailed analyses. She compared the alien structures to known human pathogens. She checked and double-checked her results. Each test confirmed what she was beginning to suspect. These alien biological samples were not natural organisms. They had been engineered, modified, designed for a specific purpose. And that purpose was terrifying. The samples were weapons. Biological weapons created to attack one specific target, human beings. Someone or something out in space had been studying human biology. They had learned how human cells worked, how human DNA was structured, how human immune systems responded to threats. And then they had created the perfect weapons to destroy all of that. Hannah sat back in her chair, her hands shaking slightly. Captain Park and his crew had found these samples in derelict ships. That meant someone had been carrying these weapons through space. Someone had been planning to use them. Against humanity. She looked at her computer screen, filled with genetic codes that spelled out humanity's potential doom. Her simple thank you letter had uncovered something that could threaten the survival of the entire human race. The soldiers she had wanted to thank were facing an enemy more dangerous than anyone had realized. And now she was the only person on Earth who knew about it. For 6 months, Hannah had been exchanging secret messages with Captain Park. Every week, he sent her more data from the derelict ships his crew found floating in space. Every week, the information became more frightening. The alien biological weapons were worse than she had first thought. They were not just designed to kill humans quickly. Instead, they were made to change human DNA slowly and carefully. They would rewrite the genetic code that made humans who they were. They would transform people into something completely different. Hannah spent countless nights in her laboratory, studying the samples and trying to understand how the weapons worked. She discovered that the aliens had been collecting human genetic information for many years. They knew everything about human biology. They knew human weaknesses and strengths. They had used this knowledge to create the perfect weapons against humanity. Captain Park's messages became more urgent as time passed. His ship and others in the frontier fleet were finding more derelict vessels. All of them carried traces of the same biological weapons. Someone out in space had been preparing for war against Earth for a very long time. Then, on a Tuesday morning in March, everything changed. Hannah was eating breakfast in her small apartment when every news channel in the world began broadcasting the same incredible story. Alien ships had appeared over major cities across Earth. Not just 1 or 2 ships, but massive fleets hovering above New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, and dozens of other capitals. The ships were beautiful. They looked like giant silver teardrops that seemed to glow with their own light. They moved silently through the sky, casting shadows over the cities below. Millions of people came out of their homes and offices to stare up at them in wonder. Within hours, the aliens made contact. They sent a message to the United Nations building in New York. The message was in perfect English, and it was broadcast to every television and radio station on Earth. "People of Earth," said a calm musical voice, "do not be afraid. We come in peace." By afternoon, the alien ambassador had landed at the United Nations. The creature that emerged from the small silver ship was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was tall and thin, maybe 8 feet in height. Its arms and legs were longer than human limbs, and they moved with incredible grace. Its skin was pale and smooth, shimmering like the surface of a pearl. Its eyes were large and silver, and when it spoke, its voice was soft and soothing. "I am Veltar, speaker for the Galactic Confederation," the creature announced to the gathered world leaders and news reporters. "We are a coalition of advanced species from across this galaxy. We have been watching your world for some time, waiting for the right moment to make contact." The aliens' words were translated into every human language and broadcast around the world. People gathered in streets and public squares to listen. Many were crying with joy. Others were praying. All of them were amazed. "We come to welcome humanity into the greater galactic community," Veltar continued. "We offer you gifts of technology that will end disease, poverty, and war. We offer you knowledge that will allow your species to travel to the stars. We offer you a future beyond your wildest dreams." The world went crazy with excitement. News channels showed people dancing in the streets. Scientists gave interviews about what alien technology might mean for humanity. Politicians talked about the dawn of a new age for Earth. But in her laboratory at Seoul National University, Hannah felt only terror. Her secure communication terminal chimed with an urgent message from Captain Park. "Dr. Kim, the ships that just arrived? They're the same design as the derelicts we've been finding. The ones carrying the bioweapons. This isn't first contact, it's an invasion." Hannah's hands trembled as she pulled up all the data files Captain Park had sent her over the past 6 months. She compared the molecular signatures from the biological weapons with the new sensor readings that Earth's satellites were taking from the Confederation ships. They matched perfectly. The aliens floating above Earth's cities were the same ones who had been preparing biological weapons against humanity. The creatures offering gifts of peace and technology were the same ones who had spent years learning how to rewrite human DNA. Hannah tried calling government officials. She tried reaching scientists who worked for the military. She sent urgent messages to anyone who might listen. But no one wanted to hear warnings about an alien invasion when the aliens were offering to cure cancer and end world hunger. "Professor Kim," said Dr. Lee from the Ministry of Science when she finally got through to him. "I understand your concerns, but the Confederation has already shared some of their medical technology with us. They've shown us how to repair damaged organs using their bioenhancement systems. This is the greatest day in human history." Bioenhancement systems. Hannah felt sick. The aliens were not offering to heal humans. They were preparing to change them. She worked through the night, analyzing the gifts the Confederation was sharing with human governments. Every piece of technology they offered was designed to interact with human biology. Every medical advancement they demonstrated required humans to alter their genetic structure in small ways. The Confederation was not planning to attack humanity with weapons. They were planning something much more clever. They were convincing humans to change themselves willingly. Each gift would make small modifications to human DNA. Over time, these changes would add up. Eventually, humans would no longer be human at all. By dawn, Hannah realized the horrible truth. Her simple thank you letter to soldiers had uncovered the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. And almost no one on Earth was willing to believe her warnings. The war for humanity's survival had already begun. But most humans did not even know they were fighting it. Hannah was packing her research files into small storage drives when her secure communication device began making urgent beeping sounds. Captain Park's voice came through the speakers, filled with worry and speed. "Dr. Kim, we need to move. Now." Her hands moved faster as she grabbed the most important data from her computer. For months, she had been secretly working on ways to fight the Confederation's biological weapons. But somehow they had discovered what she was doing. "The extraction team is led by Commander Minji Lee," Park continued through the static. "She'll get you to our hidden base on Luna. We've been working with others, humans who see through the Confederation's lies." Hannah had learned that Captain Park was not alone. While most people on Earth believed the aliens were their friends, a small group had discovered the truth. These people included military officers, scientists, and regular citizens who had noticed strange things about the Confederation's gifts. They worked in secret, sharing information and planning ways to resist the alien invasion that most humans could not see. They called themselves the Void Runners, taking their name from mysterious aliens who had been trying to warn other planets about the Confederation for many years. 15 minutes after Park's warning, Commander Lee arrived at the university with a small team of soldiers. Lee was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and several cybernetic implants that helped her process information faster than normal humans could. She moved with the confidence of someone who had fought many battles. "Professor Kim," Lee said as her team quickly packed Hannah's equipment. "We have a ship waiting. The Confederation's human helpers will be here soon. We need to leave immediately." The journey to the moon took 6 hours. Hannah had never been in a military spacecraft before. It was cramped and noisy, but it was also incredibly fast. As Earth grew smaller behind them, Lee explained more about the resistance movement. "Most people think we're crazy conspiracy theorists," Lee said. "But we've been collecting evidence for months. The Confederation is not what they claim to be." The Luna base was hidden inside an old mining facility that had been abandoned for 20 years. From the outside it looked like empty tunnels and broken equipment. But inside, the Void Runners had built a sophisticated headquarters with advanced computers, communication systems, and laboratories. Commander Lee led Hannah to a briefing room where holographic displays showed star maps covering thousands of light years. Red dots marked dozens of star systems, each one representing a world that had been contacted by the Confederation. "The Confederation isn't just conquering worlds," Lee explained, pointing to different systems on the map. "They're harvesting them. Every species they help gets changed into something else." The displays showed images that made Hannah feel sick. Alien creatures that had once been intelligent beings, now transformed into simple workers. Some looked like living machines designed only to perform specific tasks. Others were barely recognizable as having once been alive. "Every species they uplift gets genetically modified into a worker caste," Lee continued. "The lucky ones become soldiers for their army. The unlucky ones become raw materials for their biotechnology." Hannah connected her research drives to the base's main computer system. As her data appeared on the screens, she began explaining what made humans different from other species the Confederation had encountered. "Human genetic diversity is unique in the galaxy," she said, showing comparative genetic analyses. "Most alien species evolved in predictable ways. Their DNA follows clear patterns. But humans are genetic chaos. Our evolution was messy and random. This chaos was exactly what the Confederation wanted to control and use. They planned to harness human genetic randomness to create workers who could adapt to any environment or task. Humans would become the ultimate flexible workforce for their galactic empire. But chaos works both ways, Hannah said, pulling up her latest research. I've been developing something they won't expect. 4 months, she had been working on more than just defenses against the Confederation's biological weapons. She had created something revolutionary, biological agents that could evolve and adapt in real time. Instead of trying to build a wall against genetic attacks, she had weaponized evolution itself. The Confederation thinks in terms of controlled variables, she explained as her formulations appeared on screen. They design their weapons very carefully with precise targets and predictable results. They can't understand that random change can be a strength instead of a weakness. Her biological agents were made from samples of extremophile bacteria, tiny organisms that lived in the most hostile environments on Earth. These bacteria could survive in boiling water, freezing cold, intense radiation, and toxic chemicals. More importantly, they could change rapidly when faced with new threats. Captain Park, who had been permanently assigned to Luna Base, studied her work with amazement. You've turned their precision into weakness. More than that, Hannah said with a determined smile. I've given humanity teeth. The first test of her work came sooner than anyone expected. 3 days after Hannah arrived at Luna Base, the Confederation launched what they called a routine medical scan of New Tokyo. Satellites detected airborne biological agents being released over the city, agents designed to begin the slow genetic modification of the human population. But the resistance had already distributed Hannah's countermeasures through their secret network. The moment the Confederation's agents were detected, her biological defenses activated automatically. Instead of becoming docile workers, the people of New Tokyo began developing enhanced immune systems, increased physical strength, and strange resistance to Confederation technology. The aliens had expected to find a weakened, controllable population. Instead, they found humans who had evolved beyond their calculations. The hidden war between humanity and the Confederation had begun in earnest. The Confederation was getting angry and desperate. For 8 months, they had been trying to change humans into obedient workers using their biological weapons. But every attack failed. Hannah's defensive systems stopped their weapons within hours of deployment. Even worse for the aliens, their own soldiers were getting sick from exposure to humanity's new biological defenses. High Commander Zexhai was a massive creature that looked like a giant insect covered in thick armor plates. When he was frustrated, the plates on his back would click together rapidly, making sounds like bones breaking. Today he was clicking almost constantly as he addressed the Confederation Council. The situation on Terra has become impossible, Zexhai announced to the gathering of alien leaders. The humans have somehow turned their genetic weakness into a weapon. Our forces are reporting casualties we have never seen before. The other council members shifted nervously in their seats. The Confederation had conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years. No species had ever successfully resisted their biological control methods. Humans were supposed to be primitive and easy to manage. Instead, they had become more dangerous than any enemy the Confederation had ever faced. What the aliens did not understand was that Hannah's work had done much more than just create defenses against their weapons. Her biological agents had actually sped up human evolution. People who had been exposed to her treatments were changing in amazing ways. Resistance fighters now had reflexes faster than any human in history. Their brains could process information and recognize patterns at incredible speeds. Most surprisingly, they seemed to develop an almost magical ability to predict what the aliens would do next in battle. Commander Lee had just returned to Luna Base from the most dangerous mission the Resistance had ever attempted. She and her team had actually captured a Confederation command ship. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they never imagined humans could turn their own technology against them. The ship's computer systems are more advanced than anything we've seen, Lee reported to the Resistance leadership. But somehow, our people were able to understand and operate them within hours. It's like the biological changes Hannah created have made us naturally compatible with alien technology. Captain Park was working in the captured ship's main computer room, downloading massive amounts of data. The information storage systems were beyond anything humans had built, but he found himself able to navigate them easily, as if he had been trained on alien computers his entire life. Dr. Kim, you need to see this immediately, Park called to Hannah as she entered the data center. The room was filled with holographic displays showing star maps, species classifications, and battle reports that covered thousands of years of Confederation history. The scope of their empire was staggering. The displays showed thousands of worlds, millions of different species, and billions of individual creatures that had all been transformed into biological resources for the Confederation. Entire civilizations had been reduced to worker colonies that existed only to serve their alien masters. But buried deep in the captured data was something even more important. Hannah found encrypted communications from a group that called itself the True Void Runners. As she decoded their messages, she made a shocking discovery. The mysterious faction that had been trying to warn developing civilizations about the Confederation was not made up of aliens at all. They were refugees. Survivors from species that the Confederation had tried to conquer in the past. These beings had managed to escape the genetic modifications and had spent centuries moving from system to system, staying ahead of Confederation forces while trying to help other worlds avoid the same fate. They've been trying to warn developing civilizations for hundreds of years, Hannah realized as she read through their historical records. Every species that willingly joins the Confederation makes the same mistake. They believe the promises of peace and advancement until it's too late. The data revealed something else that made Hannah's heart race with excitement and fear. The reason the Confederation was so desperate to control humanity was not just because humans would make good workers. Human genetic chaos was actually the key to destroying the Confederation's entire system of biological control. If other species could somehow be infected with human genetic adaptability, the Confederation's carefully designed biological weapons would stop working. Their method of controlling conquered populations would fail. Their entire empire, built on biological slavery, would collapse. "We're not just fighting for Earth," Commander Lee said after reviewing the data. Her voice was grim but determined. "We're fighting for every species they've enslaved across the galaxy." The captured information also revealed that the Confederation was planning their final attack on humanity. They called it the Total Integration Protocol. Instead of trying to change humans gradually, they would release a massive biological weapon designed to rewrite human DNA completely and immediately. The weapon was powerful enough to affect every human on Earth within days. But the aliens had made a critical mistake. They had designed their ultimate weapon based on their understanding of original human biology. They had no idea how much Hannah's treatments had already changed the human species. The weapon that was supposed to be humanity's doom might actually make humans even stronger. As Hannah studied the alien battle plans, she realized that the war was approaching its final phase. The Confederation would either succeed in enslaving humanity completely, or humanity would find a way to break their empire forever. There would be no middle ground. The breaking point was coming, and the fate of countless species across the galaxy would be decided by what happened next on Earth. 2 years had passed since the Confederation's final attack on Earth had failed completely. Dr. Hannah Kim now stood on the observation deck of the UES Liberator, one of humanity's most advanced warships. Through the large windows, she watched as another world celebrated its freedom from alien control. The planet below was called Caris Prime. For 300 years, it had been a mining world for the Confederation. The native Carisan people had been changed into simple workers who spent their entire lives digging precious metals from deep underground. They had forgotten what it meant to be free. They had forgotten their own history and culture. But now they were free again. The Carisans walking on the planet's surface looked almost human. This was not because the Confederation had made them look like humans. Instead, Hannah's adaptive biological treatments had helped them return to their original form. Her healing viruses had slowly undone 3 centuries of genetic changes, allowing the Carisans to remember who they really were. "The Talmesh system has just voted to join the Human Defense Initiative," Admiral Lee announced from the ship's bridge. Her voice carried clearly through the communication system to where Hannah stood. Lee had been promoted from commander to admiral after leading many successful missions to free enslaved worlds. That makes 47 member species. General Park joined Hannah at the observation window. He had been Captain Park when this all started, just a soldier on a frontier ship who had found strange biological samples. Now he was one of the leaders of humanity's liberation fleet and Hannah's closest friend and partner in their work. "Hard to believe it all started with a thank you letter," Park said, looking down at the celebrating Carisans. Hannah smiled, but her expression showed how much responsibility she now carried. The Human Defense Initiative had grown far beyond anything she could have imagined when she first wrote to thank some soldiers. What had begun as Earth's desperate fight for survival had become a galactic movement to free enslaved species across the galaxy. Human ships now traveled to star systems throughout known space. They protected young civilizations from Confederation recruitment. They offered these developing species a different choice about joining the galactic community. Most importantly, they brought Hannah's biological treatments to worlds where enslaved peoples were ready to reclaim their freedom. "The original Void Runners want to make it official," Park continued, referring to the ancient refugees who had been fighting the Confederation for thousands of years. They're offering humanity full membership in their alliance. We would become the first species to join them by choice rather than by necessity. The true Void Runners had been amazed by humanity's transformation. For millennia they had spent their time running and hiding from the Confederation. They moved constantly from system to system, always staying ahead of their pursuers. They had never dared to fight back directly against their oppressors. But humanity had done something different. Humans had not just survived the Confederation's attack. They had turned that attack into an opportunity to become stronger and to help others become free as well. 17 more species have requested human bioenhancement programs, Park reported, reading from a data tablet. They want the adaptive immunity treatments. Not to change what they are, but to protect themselves from future Confederation attempts to control them. Hannah nodded as she reviewed the latest reports. Each species required careful study and customized treatments. Her biological packages had to enhance their natural genetics without changing who they were fundamentally. It was delicate and complex work, but the results were impressive. Species across the galaxy were becoming immune to the Confederation's biological control methods. A young communications officer approached them. Lieutenant Samenchin was part of the new generation of humans who had been born with the genetic enhancements. She had never known what it was like to be vulnerable to alien biological weapons. "Ma'am," Shin said to Hannah, "we're receiving messages from the Andrus system. They're asking for help with Confederation infiltrators who are trying to recruit their people." "Send the Third Fleet," Hannah ordered, "and include a full biodefense package in their supply shipment." As the officer left to carry out her orders, Hannah thought about how much had changed. She had once been a quiet professor who studied alien biology in a safe laboratory. Now she was effectively the leader of a galactic resistance movement. But she remembered why she had first started writing to soldiers, to thank people who protected others from danger. "General Park," she said formally, "please prepare a message for broadcast to all Human Defense Initiative vessels." "Ready, Dr. Kim." Hannah looked out at the stars, thinking about all the human soldiers and their alien allies who were stationed at the edges of free space, protecting others just as Captain Park had once protected Earth. "To all personnel stationed at the borders of free space," she began. "You don't know me personally, but I want to thank you for your service. While I work in the safety of our command ships and research facilities, you stand guard at the frontiers of tyranny. You protect not just humanity, but all free species from those who would enslave them." She paused, remembering her first simple message to unknown soldiers. "I know it must be lonely out there so far from home, but your sacrifice has meaning. Every world you protect, every species you help liberate, every Confederation plan you stop, it all matters. You are not just soldiers. You are the guardians of galactic freedom." The message was transmitted across the galaxy, reaching human ships and allied vessels in dozens of star systems. Somewhere out there, young beings on worlds that had never heard of Earth were probably writing their own thank you letters to the strange species that had given them hope. The galaxy was vast and the Confederation was still dangerous, but freedom was spreading from star to star. And it had all begun with one person's simple desire to thank some soldiers for their service.